Please stand by.
Loading. Loading complete.
30,
29, 28,
27,
26,
25, 24,
23,
22,
21,
20, 19,
18,
17,
16,
15,
14, 13,
12,
11,
10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
4,
2,
1. Now for what you've all been waiting for.
Hello, and welcome to the show. I have to get that robot fixed, don't I? So, good morning, good day, good evening, good night, good whatever it happens to be in your area. We have some singing, some news, some reviews, and some dancing. You don't see the dancing, but you can imagine it. It's good to have an imagination. That's what it gives us all our pop culture in the first place. So, who we have in chat? We have Stephen Horler, had a Beck, and we have a Deep State Annex. Hello, and thank you for showing up everybody. So, guess we're getting right into this thing. I was almost expecting to have to be here all by myself. Just me and my shadow, strolling down the avenue. Me and my shadow, not a soul to tell our troubles to. And when it's 12 o'clock, we climb the stairs. We never knock, 'cause no one's there. Just me and my shadow, all alone and feeling blue. Hopefully a little warm up. So, what shall we get into first here? Yeah, I'll have a little something I just came across just a moment ago while I was sitting here. So let's see. Came across this little bit of thing. And we have and of course the thing wants to okay. And of course I'm having in difficulties with my system right now. Let's see if I try this again. Oh shoot. Let's try. Oh boy. Well, this might be a problem. I can't seem to get anything to show up on screen. Hey, there's your problems with live streaming, folks. Let's try one more thing here. See if I can get an application to show up here. Shoot. Oh boy. This could be a problem. Okay, I'm going to try leaving the stream and then coming back in, see if that it helps. So just be 1 minute, folks. That won't even detect my camera. Great. Okay. Hmm. Well, this is not going in too well, folks. Okay. Let's see if I can get things to work now. All right. Looks like everything's working now. All right. Cool. Whew. Sorry about that, folks. See if I can get back to where I get everything back set up here again. Okay. I get all my menu is brought back up here. Like I was trying to show you before here, before everything decided to go to hell. Just came across a little bit of some fan art here of a character. Of this character here. Now this is a character from, the name is Miss Monday from Yaba Ninja Gaiden Z. The reason why I'm putting it up here is apparently there isn't all that much fan art of her out there. One other thing here of her. So just to try and get things started. Oh boy. Getting off to a bad foot here with technical problems, huh? Yeah, let's see if we can get things back on track here now. Yeah. Yeah, really. It seemed to be that case. I'm not really too familiar with the character myself, but that there isn't much fan art out there, and considering the look of her, it's kind of surprising. Let's see here. How about we get another little song going here? I've got a little baby, she's out of sight. I talk to her across the telephone. I'm seeing my honey, but she's mine, alright. So take my tip and leave this gal alone. Every single morning you can hear me yell, "Hey, Central, fix me up across the line." He connects me with my honey, and I ring the bell. And this is what I say to baby mine. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me, then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own. Hello, hello, baby. Hello, I guess you can't hear me. The wires must be crossed somewhere. Hello, hello, I said hello this morning through the phone. She said her name is Bess. Now I kind of know where I am at. I'm satisfied because I got my baby's dress. You're pasted in the lining of my hat. I'm mighty scared for the wires to get crossed. They'll separate me from my baby mine. Then some other fool will win her, and the game is lost. So each day I shout across the line. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own. Come on, baby. The frog song. In its entirety. Redheads are overrated. You may be overruled on that one, but I understand. I know your history on that. Yep, the frog song from Michigan J Frog. Though, be perfectly honest, it really shouldn't be called the frog song, considering that one. There was only actually one song that he does that was written specifically for him, and that was the Michigan Rag. That one should actually be called the frog song. Like dark brunettes, huh? Yeah. Hair and attitude, huh? Is that it? Let's see here. I guess I'll get into a little bit of the pop culture news here. Starting off, we have a little bit of something that came out just recently. With Pee Wee Herman, aka Paul Rubens. The actor Paul Rubin, the late actor Paul Rubin, is known for portraying the character Pee Wee Herman, and came out as gay in his post-mortem HBO documentary. The documentary is titled Pee Wee Herman as Himself. Imagine being that's from HBO. You can probably find it on Max. But yeah, he died in July 2023 at the age of 70 from cancer. So kind of a sad at how he ended things. Let's be honest. Before he took on the persona of Pee Wee Herman, and he had a boyfriend named Guy. And Guy actually died of AIDS, and Pee Wee visited him in the hospital. Well, not too long before he died. So, but Guy was a pretty big inspiration into Paul. Seeing as he used to do something where you have a Yoda voice saying, buttery! And that was the inspiration for the idiosyncrasy of Pee Wee Herman going, chocolatey, as he mentioned in this article. But the unfortunate thing with him is that his career went downhill from him actually trying to cover up him being gay. Yeah, it's pretty much a surprise to nobody he'd come out to be gay. It was kind of sad that he's coming out post mortem. So he never really got to experience being out, which I imagine would be he was probably a lot of weight on his shoulders. But he was arrested for being in a adult theater, exposing himself, which is what we're looking at here. There's mugshot from Sarasota County. Now, this was in 1991, and as a kid, I actually passed by this particular theater quite often. I never went in, obviously, being 11 years old, but hey, the fact that it was, right in my hometown, it's all going down right in my hometown is quite interesting. But he started trying to make a bit of a comeback for himself in small shows and whatnot afterwards. He never really managed to hit the same kind of traction. Unfortunately, things didn't go too far for him until his house was raided, and he was found in possession of images of erotica of minors. Though he argued that these were vintage erotica, not intent, and was able to find in the college libraries. The charges were dropped in 2004, and he pleaded guilty to a lesser obscenity charge. So he wasn't actually found guilty of the possession. But that pretty much killed any chance of his career from there on. He basically lived in obscurity from that point. Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure I've heard of some of his voice acting, but I don't know which characters he's done. Uh, well, while we're at it here we also have a few people who have passed away recently. David Lynch, you probably know his work on as Eraserhead. And we had Paul Yarrow die of Peter, Paul, and Mary. And we also had Jules Pfeiffer die. He was a cartoonist and worked as an author. He did some work on the movie. He's such a is Popeye. So let's have a little song for them. The Parting Glass. Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company, and all the harm I've ever done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall, to fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health, whate'er befall, and gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. A man may drink and not be drunk. A man may fight and not be slain. A man may court a pretty girl and perhaps be welcomed back again. But since it has so ought to be, by a time to rise and a time to fall, come fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and joy be with you all. Goodbye, hey, you legends. Now, I don't want to have this be complete downer of a time, so let's try and bring the mood back up a little, huh? Hopefully, I can get this one right. I've been kind of practicing this one for the past couple of weeks, so here is Skidamarink in the original 1910 version. Down on the Bola Bola Island, where the mermaids chant, reigns a big chief crocodile beneath an oyster plant. He loved the scene of selfishly, queen of the gay white wave. Each night in his shell he'd go to sea, and in tuneful scales he'd rave. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo means I love you. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo means I'll be true. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo. All the time he sang this rhyme. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-boop, skidamarink-a-doo means I love you. But when the midnight moon was pale, Kingfish Kokomo came floating over with his tail to say he loved her so. But she was true, the crocodile said, Coconut, go away. I know in a very little while you'll hear my lover say, Skidamarinka-dinka-boop, skidamarinka-doo, I love you. Skidamarinka-dinka-boop, skidamarinka-doo, I love you. I love you in the morning and in the afternoon. I love you in the evening underneath the moon. Skidamarinka-dinka-boop, skidamarinka-doo, I love you. You, yeah. Yes, it was made, made famous. Yes, by the, he, so yeah. But you haven't heard the original song though, because it's actually fairly hard to find. Interestingly enough, I had to actually do some digging. The only place I actually could find it was actually on Wikipedia. So about one more song here. Let's see here. What shall I do? Yeah, this one. Must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, I bet you drove the little boys wild. And when it came to winning blue ribbons, you must have shown the other kids how. I can see the judge's eyes as they handed you the prize. You must have made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. Does your mother realize Stork delivered quite a prize the day he left you on the family tree? Does your dad appreciate that you're merely super great? A miracle for any century. If they don't, just send them both to me. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby. You must have been a wonderful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, you must have drove the little boys wild. And when it came to winning blue ribbons, you must have shown the other kids how. I can see the judge's eyes as they handed you the prize, as they made the cutest bow. Oh, you must have been a beautiful baby, 'cause baby, look at you now. Yep, they were the ones who made the song famous. Though they did more of an update version, which is like kind of tacked on at the end of what I was singing there. So their version is actually much different from the original. It doesn't have the story of King Crocodile and Kingfish Kokomo or the sea nymph or anything like that. uh, so let's see here. Now, yep, it was basically just the chorus that they do. It simplifies the song quite a bit for children. is probably the reason why they do it. Uh, Getting things on the roll here. Recently, I did a midnight showing of Deadpool and Wolverine. And in that, our main antagonist is Cassandra Nova. Cassandra, if you haven't read the comic books, might not be recognizable to you. And in her movie format, she's a lot younger in appearance. So this is her in the movie, but in the comic books, she's depicted as looking much older. She first appeared in the New X-Men in issue 114 in May in 2021 or 2001, excuse me. She was created by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. And I do think that Grant Morrison's run on the X-Men was quite good too. He did introduce a few things I don't know a little bit questionable. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't much care for Cassandra Nova from the comics. But her backstory, he is part of the Shi'ar mythology. The Shi'ar are aliens in the X-Men comics. Charles Xavier kind of had the fling with their queen and all that. But she's be known as they had in the mythology. They're known as a Madre, an evil spirit that it's an anti-self that one must fight before being born. They exist in the astral plane, and according to the mythology. Due to Charles Xavier's potential, his anti-self was able to be born and took on a physical body, which is that of Cassandra Nova. Because she was pronounced stillborn, but survived and continued to build as a massive cells in a sewer wall. Well, a sewer baby, huh? No wonder she's got a bad attitude. That's basically her comic book backstory. In the womb, she tried to strangle Charles with her umbilical cord, as you can see in this shot here. Now, her powers are actually a little bit different than that of Charles, even though she's effectively a twin sister clone sort of evil spirit something, comic book logic. She has telepathy, telekinesis, and DNA manipulation. In the movies, they introduced a little bit of a different twist to her powers. Is saying that she has to get her hands dirty in order to use her telepathy. And the depiction of this probably comes from this shot here, where she's sticking her hands into the guy. In this particular scene, the comic books, which takes place in New X-Men in issue 115. And she's basically killing the guy. And you can see side by side here with this image of how it looks compared to the movie where she's reading somebody's mind. Fairly similar. Now, there was a little bit of backstory that never quite made it all the way. Grant Morris's originally intended it for Nova to be rehabilitated, with the former villain and assuming the alias of Ernest. Now, of course, if you haven't been reading the comics, you wouldn't be familiar with who Ernest is either. Ernest is a young girl who appears to have progeria, uh, and she was pretty much best friends with No Girl, which is what you can see here in the floating up here in the brain in the jar thing. Now, there's been some hints as to Nova being Ernest. The strongest one comes from the alternate future timeline in Earth 15104. That's the alternate reality. This takes place in New X-Men in 1 in 53. In that one, we have this panel where Cassandra Nova is talking to No Girl. You with your deluxe Alzheimer is me in a synthetic alien body. That's light years from the nearest bloody spare part. The old team still got the wiggle. And Martha, why, of course, you can still call me Ernest, dear. He was my favorite artist. The reference to being her favorite artist, the name Ernest is taken from the German artist Max Ernst, not Ernest P. Worrell. I guess she is kind of like that. Yes, Charles' twin. Yeah. There was a little bit of discrepancy though with between Cassandra Nova's powers and Ernest's. Being, as mentioned, her primary powers are telepathy and telekinesis, and Ernest's powers was super strength, and psychic resistance, and superhuman durability. But this was also explained in another comic book. In Spider-Man and the X-Men number 6, we end up with this panel here. We find out that Ernest's powers aren't necessarily what they appear to be. Our Ernest is something of a biological anomaly, even among mutants, as if she was purposefully constructed. The details are a little interest to you, I'm sure, but as a result, she possesses the most potent inborn and psychic defenses I've ever seen. She cannot consciously control it, but it's possible her prodigious strength may just be the power of her mind forcing its will on reality. So Ernest's power might not be what it appears to be. Well, welcome to the stream. You are catching it just as well. I'm going over the backstory of Cassandra Nova, and I'm having to cover a little bit of a few other characters. Now, a little bit of backstory on No Girl since I brought her up too. No Girl started off as Martha. Her power is telepathy. She was kidnapped by a mutant supremacist group, U-Men, and had her brain extracted and put into a jar by a Sublime. This is John Sublime right here. He's basically a virus. Gets kind of complicated there, but that's basically this backstory of No Girl. So she can only communicate telepathically. In the last panel that I showed you, of Ernest sitting there with Mr. Sinister, she had made a deal with Sinister that Sinister would give No Girl a new body. Personally, I always found Cassandra Nova to be a bit redundant. Honestly, I thought they could have just used an existing character such as the Shadow King and maybe boost his power somehow. Maybe they were also introducing the Sublime drug at the time, so perhaps that could have been an explanation into why the Shadow King's power got boosted. Well, interestingly enough, and be honest, that's kind of how I would have taken things. Maybe having Cassandra Nova just being some look-alike twin into Xavier, or it was just a trick by the Shadow King. But interestingly enough, that's kind of what they did in another version of the character. In this version of the character, X-Men in '92, that was released in 2015. We have Cassandra Nova. Instead of being a twin sister born from some evil spirit that you have to battle before you're born, and this was a sort of clone created by Apocalypse, and with the genetics manipulated, obviously. So it was a female clone. The Shadow King took over the body of this empty vessel and posed as Cassandra Nova. Though at the end, we find that Cassandra seems to have gained her own personality and identity, though the comic book didn't continue from there. Hello, and welcome back again. I know. I love what they did with Mr. Sinister, which the movie is delivered on that one. Oh yeah, Mr. Sinister would have been awesome in the movies. Yeah, both of the characters are much more in depth than they're given credit for too. I mean, you have Doom, even though he's a megalomaniac bent on world domination, as he's also a benevolent dictator, and actually rules his country he quite well, surprisingly enough, despite being such a villain. And Sinister, his motivations are quite amazing as well. In fact, my little project of combining different stories is from different it's parts of the X-Men, from movies, the various comic books, the cartoons, and actually has me starting with Sinister as one of the first major villains they encounter as they're forming the team. Oh yeah, that's right. They did have a post-credit. Well, they didn't really show Nathaniel Essex. They only had the Essex Corporation. I yeah, I think it might have been in Wolverine. I don't remember entirely though. Uh, That is Cassandra Nova. So, hope you found that interesting. Now, let's see here. What can we do next? Yeah, little favorite. Have a little Tom Lehrer. He gave permission to use his songs. So let's get to using some of them. This one of my favorites: poisoning pigeons in the park. Spring is here, spring is here. Life is skittles and life is beer. I think the loveliest time of the year is spring. I do, don't you? Of course you do. But there's one thing that makes spring complete for me and makes every Sunday a treat for me. All the world is in tune on a spring afternoon when we're poisoning the pigeons in the park. Every Sunday you'll see my sweetheart and me as we poison the pigeons in the park. When they see us coming, the birdies all try and hide, but they still go for peanuts when coated with cyanide. The sun shining bright, everything seems alright when we're poisoning the pigeons in the park. We've gained notoriety and caused much anxiety in the Audubon Society with our games. They call it impiety and lack of propriety and quite a variety of unpleasant names. But it's not against any religion to want to dispose of the pigeon. So if Sunday you're free, why don't you come with me and we'll poison the pigeons in the park? And maybe we'll do in a squirrel or two while we're poisoning the pigeons in the park. We'll murder them all amidst laughter and merriment, except for a few we take home to experiment. My pulse will be quickened with each drop of strychnine we feed to a pigeon. It just takes a smidgen to poison the pigeons in the park. I could see Mr. Sinister wanting to poison the pigeons in the park, for science. And he'd bring them back to life and mutate them into some strange monstrosity as well. Yeah, what's this? Cassandra Frankenstein was the bad guy in Mystery Man, in which started Paul Rubin. Yeah, that's interesting. See if you finish that. Let's see here. Here we are. Do one more. And what is it that put America in the forefront of the nuclear nations? What is it that'll make it possible to spend $20 billion of your money to put some clown on the moon? Well, it's good old American know-how. That's what. It's provided by good old Americans like Dr. Werner von Braun. Gather round while I sing you of Werner von Braun, a man whose allegiance is ruled by expedience. Call him a Nazi, he won't even frown. Nazi schmatzi, says Werner von Braun. Don't say that he's hypocritical. Say that rather that he's apolitical. Once the rockets go up, who cares where they come down? It's not my department, says Werner von Braun. Some have harsh words for this man of renown. But some think our attitude should be one of gratitude, like the widows and cripples in old London town, who owe their large pensions to Werner von Braun. You too may be a big hero once you've learned to count backwards to 0. In English and German, I know how to count down, and I'm learning Chinese, says Werner von Braun. Another particular favorite of mine. Back with the coffee. You listening from the other room. Well, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Because I have no idea what I'm doing. So let's see here. I don't know. Maybe things are just spiraling out of control here. Thank you. I appreciate that. But, I don't know. What should I do next? I mean, who knows? The spirals could be taking over here. You know, there's a fear of spirals. Some people have. Some call it helixophobia. Some even calling it uzumaki phobia. Uzumaki being the Japanese word for spiral or whirlpool or vortex. Well, the artist Junji Ito made a horror manga, Uzumaki, Spiral into Horror. This was released in 1998 through to 1999. And we're first introduced to the two main stars and protagonists of our manga. Suichi Sato and Kiri Higoshima. That's Suichi at the top and Kiri at the bottom. Now, Suichi had been going out of town to take schooling outside the town. So a lot of people hadn't been noticing the strange spirals that had been forming around places, such as in the waters. Look at all those whirlpools. Odd. He seems to notice it because he's been leaving town quite often. Now, maybe a lot of whirlpools in a stream doesn't seem to be that strange of a occurrence to you, and maybe it isn't. However, Suichi he suggests that they leave together with his girlfriend in Korea. He says how whenever he enters the town, as soon as he gets off the station platform, he starts feeling dizzy. He hates the town. Worse yet, his father has been acting very strange, obsessing over spirals. Sitting there hours in his room, he's collected spirals all over. And things get stranger still. He himself begins to spiral. He has to do everything he does has to have a spiral in it. when he eats his soup, he has to stir it up into a small whirlpool. Before he can relax in a bath, he has to spin the water and sit in the whirlpool of water to relax. And even his own eyes begin to spin in opposite directions. That's totally normal, isn't it? And it kind of freaked Kiria out there, or when she first saw it. And of course, he gets to get even creepier. Kiria delivers a pot, some order that her father made, her father being a potter, her to Suichi's his father, who's acting really strange. And her Suichi's father tells Kiria that he doesn't need the spiral pottery anymore. He's found a way to make spirals within his own body. And he proceeds to do this creepy ass thing with his tongue, sticking his tongue out and spiraling it into making into a spiral. Now this freaks Kiria the hell out, which I'd imagine would freak anybody the hell out. And she runs off just as a mysterious delivery shows up at the doorstep. This custom order is a wooden tub, and we cut to a scene where Suichi's father has died. They had found in his body. He had curled himself up into the tub, breaking every bone in his body. He had to form himself into a spiral. What a way to die, huh? Well, it gets creepier than that. When they cremate his remains, means the remains go up into the clouds and begin forming a spiral. And Suichi's mother screams and swears that she can see her husband's face in the clouds as it spirals up. Now, was this just her imagination, or was this his soul crying out? It's hard to say, but there are several other instances of this happening in the manga, of him appearing. Well, this basically drives Suichi's mother insane. Becoming deathly afraid of the spirals. She shaves her head out of fear of the curls in her hair, and cuts the tips of her fingers off in fear of the spiral pattern of her fingertips. Well, after a possible visit from her husband in the form of a centipede trying to crawl into her ear, she's informed that there are spirals deep in her ear. She tries to cut them out by stabbing herself. However, this leaves her in a state of vertigo, constantly feeling like she's spinning, and eventually she passes away. Well, things get weirder from here. And honestly, I think there's a little bit afterwards, we meet one of Kiria's friends. She has a small crescent-shaped scar on her forehead from trying to impress a boy. She was when she was younger. She was climbing around, walking across these ropes on the playground equipment, and fell off and cracked her head open, thus forming the small scar. Well, things start getting strange. And Suichi, he gets a strange feeling from her and is repelled by her, which she doesn't quite understand. and why he's so repelled. Well, he shows she shows him the scar, and when she does show him the scar has changed into a spiral pattern. The spiral pattern begins to bore a hole into her head, deeper and deeper, until we get one of the most iconic images from this manga. That of the spiral sucking her eyeball into her head. Well, it gets even worse from here, of course. She begins to pull somebody else into her head as Kiryu watches. And after her pulling the guy into her own body he implodes and sucks into it, leaving just a scorch mark on the ground. Now, personally, if I just watched one of my friends get turned into a black hole, suck somebody into her, then and implode, I'd get the hell out of town at that point, and considering all the other weird stuff that's just happened. But our two protagonists stay, of course, because wouldn't be much of a story otherwise. But of course, things have to start getting stranger and stranger from there. For instance, Kiryu's hair forms curls and spirals, hypnotizing those who look at it, and it begins to suck her life out of her. She kind of has a hair off against some other her girl who wants to be noticed and popular, and loses the battle, fortunately, which weakens the grip of the spirals on her hair. Her spirals will wrap around Suichi and try to choke him, but he uses the shears that he was trying to use to cut her hair and cuts himself free. So for the rest of the manga, Kiryu is rocking this one killer pixie cut. Oh. There's another little bit of body horror that shows up that honestly kind of feels a little out of place, but it's a really good scene, so I had to leave it in. Jack, a young boy who likes to jump out and surprise people, thus giving him the nickname Jack in the Box. He had developed a bit of a crush on Kiryu, and to show his love, he thought he'd build a car. This didn't really work out too well, and ended up wrapped around the car's tire. Now, the story in the anime, which I'll get to, and the manga differ a little bit from here. In the manga, Kiryu is haunted by a Jack in the form of Jack in boxes that seem to pop out at her. So Suichi and Kiryu go to Jack's grave, seeing as they're burying people now instead of cremating them, because they keep forming spirals whenever they cremate somebody and creeping the whole town out. They try and dig up Jack, or in the anime, he didn't fully bury him yet, and he jumps out of his coffin. He begins jumping after the two of them. In the anime, he just jumps through town until he gets to Kiryu. And as he jumps, his body parts fly off until there's a spring he's bouncing off of. and he finally lands, and the spring pops out of him. The spring is apparently apart from the car, which, considering how he's put together, it's kind of questionable how the mortician missed that. But of course, things in the town start getting stranger and stranger still. With people beginning to mutate, such as those who move too slowly, begin turning into snail people. And some women who are pregnant begin craving blood like a mosquito, using a hand drill to bore holes into the people and suck their blood dry. Of course, one person, who I believe is Kirya's cousin, goes into a further mutation, her tongue spiraling out and forming a mosquito-like proboscis, allowing her to impale people and suck their blood directly. And the children born from these mosquito women, why they want to go back into the womb. Their umbilical cords regrow, creating a mushroom-like placenta with spiral patterns all over it. And oddly enough, these newborn infants are able to talking amongst themselves of how the doctor is willing to put them back in the womb. And the placentas that they were born with regrow into these mushroom-like stuff that they just leave on the floor of the operating room. The doctor, for some reason, had an urge to eat them, and it seems to be controlling his mind. They also have been chopping up these placenta mushrooms and putting them in the food for all the patients to eat as well. Now, of course, things are beginning to get worse and worse in the town. Can you not hear me? Testing? Testing. Can you hear me? Are you having trouble hearing me? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. You're not here. Okay, good. Sounds good to me. Okay. All right. Well, I'd hate to have that hiccup after I've just been going over this whole thing. Well, at any rate, back to the story. Things keep getting worse in the town, and after the town gets hit by 6 tsunamis, basically leveling it. Okay. The only thing left was the row houses, which is kind of an important plot point, because the row house is actually the inspiration that Juno Ito had for the story to begin with. So everything has been laid to waste in the town. News reporters, and rescue teams that try to come into the town find themselves trapped, along with everyone living in the town. Anyone who tries to escape, he finds that they can't, and he exits spiraling back towards the town, or spiraling into an abyss. Now, I have a bit of a theory as to how you could escape the town at this point, but I think I want to save that for a video I'll put out. So, I believe that some of the inspiration for some of the spiral patterns that you see in this anime or manga came from these spirals patterns here. These are stones called Uzumaki patterns, and they date back from 4000 to 3000 BC in Japan. We don't really know anything about why these patterns were made or anything, but it's possible that the artist had seen these patterns and drew inspiration from them. Particularly seeing as like with the lighthouse scene in the manga, the burn marks along the walls and ceilings have a very similar style to the rock patterns in the rocks that you could have seen. So now getting into the anime, honestly, didn't think the anime was that bad. It did have some shortcomings things to it though. I'd have to say the I've heard people argue that the anime sucked. I didn't. I have to disagree. It did not suck. It was it as good as the manga. No. Oh yes, Galaxy is a Spiral too. No, there's a hidden in 20th chapter. No, the manga goes up to 19 chapters, and there's a hidden 20th chapter that was released. He said goes back to before her Kiryu got her haircut. So you'll have to. And in that 20th chapter, they discover a new spiral galaxy. Now, I suspect that seeing as no one else outside the town could see the spiral galaxy, it was just an illusion created by the spirals. Greetings, Purple. You're going to have to rewind and watch your stuff over again and to see the story about Cassandra Nova. But you're coming in just in time for me to wrap up the story of Uzumaki. Now, as you can see, this image on screen here is from the manga. For comparison, some of the shots in the manga versus the anime are almost one for one. So this is the manga, and this one is the anime. So you can see how they did here. So manga, anime. Now, a couple of the shortfallings things in the anime is the first thing you're gonna notice is the two stories in between were kind of felt a little rushed. There's only 4 episodes in the anime miniseries, and honestly, I think it would have benefited from having about 5 or 6 episodes instead. It would have given the story a little bit more breathing room. But the other downfall is here's a good example of the anime from the first episode, some of the drawing. It's very interesting how they did this, because you don't usually see this style for an anime where they take basically the manga and animate it, so it actually looks like the manga animated rather than and turned into a more of the cartoons that we usually see. But another problem with the anime is that for some reason, he did a completely different company making the second episode. So we saw a dip in quality in the style of the animation. For instance, this is again from the first episode of the anime. You can see all the detail in the character here. Now, when we compare this to the second episode, where we're reintroduced to the same character who should look as disgusting as he does here, he's much more plain and with less detail to his lines. So that was a big downfall for the anime as well, which is probably where people started saying that the anime sucks. Now, there is one other thing. In 2000, I think it was in 2000, and they made a movie of the anime or of the manga. Now, I haven't seen the movie. It was released in Japan. It was made and released in Japan. I haven't seen it. I've only seen clips of the movie, but definitely has some creepy vibes. And for the time it was made, it looks pretty decent. So, Uzumaki the movie. This is the box or poster for it. Eh, possibly they were trying to save money, but it was only 4 episodes, so I don't know what the reason behind it was. Maybe the other company was having other issues with fulfilling the request, or they had to go to another company, or I'm not really sure. But it covers Uzumaki spiral into horror. So perhaps we shouldn't. So how is things going in the chat here? Let's see here. Why is there no headache tablet? It's in the jungle because the pair it's eat them all. Actually, the pair is eating headache pills. No headache. Think about it. When go on, they're gone. And this pair will make it easy. I hope so. Yeah, check out the anime. I mean, like I said, you've been warned about some of the downfalls of it, and so it might meet your expectations some. So that you don't find it just absolutely sucking. Let's see if I can find where it's streaming. Let's see here. Where can you watch Uzumaki? Let's see. Looks like Uzumaki is on Hulu. This here was a just watch. That might tell me a little bit more. Let's see. Uzumaki can be found on Apple TV and Max. Adult Swim, Prime, Amazon, and Hulu, and Disney Plus if you happen to have it. I'd recommend staying away from Disney Plus. So yeah, it's out there here in a lot of different places. So with whistle. Let's get into another song. How about that? Give my regards to Broadway. Do you ever see two Yankees part upon a foreign shore when the good ship's just about to start for old New York once more? With tear-dimmed eyes, they say goodbye. They're friends, without a doubt. When the man on the pier shouts, "Let them clear!" as the ship strikes out. Give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old time throng. Give my regards to Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long. Say hello to dear old Coney Island if there you chance to be. When you're at the wardrobe, have a smile and charge it up to me. Mention my name every place you go, as around the town you roam. Wish you'd call on my gal. Now remember, old pal, when you get back home, give my regards to Broadway. Remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old time throng. Give my regards to Broadway and say that I'll be there ere long. Give my regards to Broadway. Oh. Let's see here. What else can we do? Let's see. Alright, so I already did that one. So let's see. I don't think I want to do that one. No, I don't want to do that one either. Oh no, dead air, no, not. Ah, here we are. This is a short one. I love you truly, truly, dear. Life with its sorrow, life with its tear. Fade into dreams when I feel you near. For I love you truly, truly, dear. Ah, love, 'tis something to feel your kind hand. Ah, yes, 'tis something by your side to stand. Gone is the sorrow, gone doubt and fear. For you love me truly, truly, dear. Yes, it's an old song from 1901. I love you truly. It was written by Carrie Jacobs Bond. Sounds familiar, huh? Bring back old memories. Already did that one. All right. Yeah. Where is it? Ah, here we are. What do I I do just as you say? Why do I always give you your way? Why do I sigh? Why don't I try and forget? It must be that something lovers call fate kept on saying I had to wait. I saw them all, just couldn't fall till we met. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true and make me be blue and even be glad just to be sad thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do, for nobody else gave me a thrill. For all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. It seems like dreams, like I always had, could be, should be, making me glad. Why am I blue? It's up to you to explain. Maybe, baby, I'll go away. Someday, some way, you'll come and say, it had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true and make me be blue and even be glad just to be sad thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do, for nobody else gave me a thrill. For all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. It had to be you. Do I know blue skies? Well, let's see. Do I know blue skies? I I was blue, just as blue as I could be. Every day was a cloudy day for me. Then good luck came a knocking at my door. Skies were gray, but they are not gray anymore. Blue skies smiling at me. Nothing but blue skies do I see. Bluebirds singing a song. Nothing but bluebirds all day long. Never saw sun shining so bright. Never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my how they fly. Blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. How's that? All right. So, let's get into one last thing here. Another thing here. Oh, yeah, before I get into you little movie review thing. How about we get into this? It should be interesting. If I can get. There we are. And this is something that's not out yet. This is called The Knights of Guinevere. There's only a teaser out right now. You can see the teaser probably on YouTube. You can see it on Blue Sky. You can see it on probably Twitter X. But the teaser starts out with this very serene looking girl all sitting there, surrounded by cutesy animals. And the animals say she's asleep. Suddenly, the scene cuts. It's to this futuristic scene where he seems to be screaming, and we hear somebody there saying she's waking up. So apparently, this is her true form. But as she thrashes around on the table, well, it cuts back to this rather serene scene of her in her dream state. The animation looks pretty solid for this, I have to say. Oh. Hello! Oh, thank you for showing up. Like I said, the animation for this looks pretty solid. It's being produced by, it's an indie thing, being produced by Glitch. Now, Glitch also produced the amazing Digital Circus. If you're not familiar with that, let me get a image of that up here real quick. So, the amazing Digital Circus. So that character, I've been watching it on Netflix. I believe you can watch it free on YouTube if you want. I'm not sure where else it's playing. Its release in episodes is very slow, probably because it takes them a long time to do all the graphic animation for it. But it's been a pretty good show, so I have some high hopes for this Knights of Guinevere. The writers on this Knights of Guinevere show, who appear to be some of the same people who worked on the Owl House. I never really watched the Owl House myself, so if you're familiar with that you might be familiar with some of the writing. Okay, so it's currently on YouTube and Netflix. All right. So it covers that little bit. Yeah. You love the Owl House. Well, you might love the Knights of Guinevere here then. Because, like I said, it's at least 3 of the same writers who's working on it. And they seem to be some of the main writers for the Owl House, too. Yeah, you can see their style. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the Owl House myself, so I I don't know how it goes. See if I can get my throat to clear a little bit here. All right. I think my throat's starting to. I think my voice is starting to go a little bit. But let's try and get one more song in here while I still have a voice. What should I do? What do you do, a drunken sailor? What do you do, a drunken sailor? What do you do, a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning, and shave his belly a rusty razor, shave his belly a rusty razor, shave his belly a rusty razor. Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in his caboose by bottom, put him in his caboose by bottom, put him in his caboose by bottom. Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in a longboat till it's sober, put him in a longboat till it's sober, put him in a longboat till it's sober. Early in the morning, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in bed with the captain's daughter, put him in bed with the captain's daughter, put him in bed with the captain's daughter. Early in the morning. Way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. Early in the morning. Way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. Way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises, way hey up she rises. Early in the morning. Yeah, that was probably the first song I learned. And the reason why is because it takes a lot of breath control to do. And I was trying to learn to do songs to help with the stutter. But as I was saying, I was going to get into a little bit of a review here. Well, maybe not so much a review, but more of a trivia matter here on the subject of The Last Dragon. The reason why I selected The Last Dragon because, well, it happened to be the last movie I watched. So here we have the poster for The Last Dragon. Now, the movie was a critical failure, but the box office success, making 33 million. Again, it's a budget of approximately 10 million. Since it's become a cult hit. Now, I did some adjustments to the budget for how much that would be today, and what I got was a budget of 30 million, raking in the box office a success of 100 million. That's pretty good for a $30 million budget hit movie. Now, some of the posters, like the one that you're seeing on screen right now, had a bit of a preamble. He's a martial arts master who refuses to fight. He's a Bruce Lee fan who's so sure he's Oriental that he eats popcorn with chopsticks. Excuse the Oriental part, of course, as I'm just reading verbatim here. His friend think he's too serious. His family thinks he's crazy. His enemies thinks he's no challenge. But she knows he's the last dragon. Speaking of Power, it's Lego was acquired the license, and later the years will start releasing sets based on one. Ooh, wow! Released on One Piece. Okay, that's awesome. I'm gonna be looking forward to the sets I can't buy because I can't afford them. We have the star Timok as Leroy Green. Jules Carey as Shonuff, the antagonist. And Vanity as Laurel Charles. Now, in the scene here, as you can see on the screen, this is the introduction you seeing where Leroy chops an arrow out of the air. This is a real stunt they did, and it took them 2 hours to get it right. Faith Prince, who you can see in the fake music video here, did her own singing for the music video segments. And her character, her Angela Vrasco, was patterned off of Cindy Lauper. As you can see, the character here of Angela, and here we have Cindy for comparison. So Cindy Lauper, Angela Vrasco. I can definitely see the similarity in the two. This is Esther Maros. She was a or is a gospel singer, and this is her last on-screen appearance. And she hasn't really been on screen since. Vanity, as you can see on the screen here played Laurel Charles, and she was the first and only choice for the character. So it's always nice to get the person you imagine in for the role, well, to play the role, huh? When filming started, Jules Carey, playing Shonuff, the guy in the red jumpsuit there, with the tiger on it, he did not practice any form of martial arts at the start of the filming. Now, Taimak, playing Leroy Green, he teaches his Chinese Goju. This was a form of martial arts created by a Taimak's instructor and close friend, and Ron Envy Van Cleef. Taimak also trained in Jeet Kune Do and continued to practice this after the filming ended. Sure enough, fight scenes are awesome. Oh yeah, definitely. Now, of course, there have been some speculation and fan and thinks about Leroy being the first Super Saiyan, seeing as they introduced the glow, which at the end of the movie, spoilers, but hey, this is a movie from the 80s, he develops a glow all over his body as he gets a second wind and defeats its Shonuff. Now, this movie came out before the introduction of Super Saiyans into Dragon Ball, so hey, maybe there's something to the story. Maybe Akira Toriyama got some inspiration from seeing the movie. Who knows? There was one little error in the movie. In the movie theater scene, when Shonuff was first arriving, all of his little toadies, he's lined up single file on either side of the row. As you can see in this screen, they're in a mixed group. However, when the scene cuts away and cuts back to Shonuff standing there, everybody's shifted around, and with all the guys on one side and all the ladies on the other. So this is one error that they made in the movie. There are a few others that are said to be errors, but I kind of question whether they actually were intended to be errors or not. For instance, Leroy, his little brother, referring to him as Reloy. which may have been just the intent, which was actually done intentionally. And there was something about a misspelling on the sign in the pizza parlor as well. So that covers that movie. Now, I think this is a great movie. It's definitely an all ages movie. So you can watch this with your kids if you want. I would recommend, if you're going to watch it with kids, schedule it for at least a few hours, and a few hours before their bedtime, because they're going to get hyper and want to maybe roughhouse a little bit afterwards after seeing the fight scenes, especially at the end. But that's part of the good part of this movie. It inspires people to want to work out and better themselves. In fact, it's a whole part of the message of the movie. Find strength within yourself rather than trying to find it externally. Use fighting only as your last resort. These are great messages to have in a movie, and they tell that message not in such a preachy way, but in a way that integrates into the story itself, which is often lost in modern storytelling, unfortunately. Yeah, in some ways, you could also consider it to be sort of one of the best black exploitation movies as well from the 80s. So that was The Last Dragon. I may do that one and for a midnight showing sometime. So, well, I got a few more minutes to kill here, so let's see what we have in the. If there's anything else in the chat here I missed. And it doesn't look like I missed too much in the chat. So how about we round things off with some. See if there's any songs I haven't done yet here. That'd be good. Let's see, I did that one. Yeah, it's one. This seems to be a popular one, and for people like me to do. Hole in the bucket. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. A hole. Then patch it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then patch it, dear Henry. Then patch it the hole. With what shall I patch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I patch it, dear Liza? With what? With straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With straw, dear Henry, dear Henry. With straw. The straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too long, dear Liza, too long. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, cut it. With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what? With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, a knife. The knife is too dull, dear Liza, dear Liza. The knife is too dull, dear Liza, too dull. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, sharpen it. With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza? With what? With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With a stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, a stone. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, too dry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, wet it. With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what? With water, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With water, dear Henry, dear Henry. With water. With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fetch it, dear Liza? With what? With a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, with a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, a bucket. But there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. Oh, hole. But not to worry. He peed on a stone, sharpened his knife, cut the straw, and patched his bucket. But the water was never quite the same again. So, oh yeah, oh man, I'm having a brain here for is that song where they trade you a ring for a mirror and then in a cart and some other stuff. I believe there is a similar song like that. Yes. Fill the bucket with water and hold your finger over the hole long enough to get it back to the rock. All your problems are solved. Uh, Or I suppose you don't really need that much water. I mean, you could have maybe just kind of tip the bucket it on one side, just enough so it holds water without the hole leaking out. I mean, that could work too. So, seem to be winding down here. What can I wind down with? Yeah, how about some April showers? When April showers may come your way, they bring the flowers that bloom in May. So when it's raining, have no regrets. Because it's raining rain, you know it's raining violets. And when you see clouds up on a hill, you know there'll be crowds of daffodils. So just keep looking for a bluebird and listening for his song whenever April showers come along. All right. Okay. Well, I'm not. So. 100 bottles of beer. 100 bottles of beer on the wall. 100 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Or one little bug in the code. One little bug in the code. Take it down, patch it around. 136 bugs in the code. For you coders. Never heard the road was done in a male voice, but now I can hear you singing my. Oh, well, thank you. I hope that's a compliment. Yeah, I do plan to learn other songs. And hope. So I do hope to expand and do different things with these sort of live streams. But I hope everybody's enjoyed themselves. And yeah. Not me. You don't even have programming socks. Oh well. Yeah, I've tried learning a little bit of HTML, and my dad was a programmer. He knew a bunch of different languages, programming languages. When it came to speaking languages, he wasn't he was about as good as I was. Always love the singing. Thank you. I hope I get better and learn a bigger variety of songs to sing. No, thank you for showing up. I was a little worried I was going to have to be speaking and doing this to myself for a little bit. And sorry for the little glitches at the beginning of the show. I'm glad I was able to get it fixed. You know, that's how live streaming goes for you. The Commodore 128. I started with the Commodore 64. I remember they would have these we get these magazines, and they would have all the code that you just type in by hand. They had to do page by page, and that's how you got all the programs. My dad had just piles and piles of discs from doing that. Thinking back, I kind of wish I was a little bit older so I could have learned to do that myself with him. Yes, basic. Well, at any rate, I'll be closing this thing out now. So thank you for everybody for showing up. And maybe I'll do another one of these again in some time. I mean, if this is a good time, I'll keep the time. If not, we'll try to work out another time. And so see you all later.